The leader of the Niger military junta, General Abdurrahman Tchiani, has stated that they are not going to exceed 3 years in power, after which power would be transited back to the democracy government. This was stated in a televised address broadcast that he recently held. It is no longer news that since General Abdurrahman Tchiani and his troops ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, there have been series of conversations from around the world. More so, it would be recalled that since the coup was perpetrated in Niger Republic, the Economic Community of West African States (Ecowas) has been making efforts to reinstall President Bazoum as the president of Niger Republic. However, General Tchiani has now stated that the military junta does not have the intention to hold on to power for so long. He said that after 3 years there will be transition of power. He however stated that in a case where military intervention is deployed, it won't be a walk in the park. According to Punch newspaper, we can't exceed power before we hand over, but in a case where there is military intervention, it will never be a walk in the park, the statement concluded. General Abdurrahman Tchiani, who made the statement, stated that if the military from Ecowas intervene in Niger Republic, then they are going to rule for as long as they want. But if there is no military intervention from the Ecowas, they are going to rule only 3 years and hand over power to the democratically elected government. General Abdurrahman Tchiani, the leader of the Niger Republic junta, on Saturday stated that the army would hand over power to a civilian government within the next 3 years. He also stated that in 1 month's time, the junta would form a committee to begin to work on a new constitution of the country. General Tchiani said this in his speech in a nationwide broadcast on national television on Saturday night. He made the speech shortly after meetings with the Economic Community of West African States (Ecowas) delegation led by former Nigerian head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar. As of the time General Tchiani addressed the Nigerians, the Ecowas delegations were still in Niamey. It is not clear how the Ecowas leaders will react to the latest position of the military junta. General Tchiani emphasized that while Niger does not want to go to war and the military leaders' door is open for discussion, they will defend themselves if the need arises. Meanwhile, a senior envoy of the United Nations on Saturday arrived near Niamey for further talks with the military rulers. Earlier Saturday, Abdulsalami Abubakar had told journalists that the ECOWAS delegation's meeting with the military junta in Niger Republic went well and had opened a door for further talks. The meeting was a last-ditch diplomatic effort to reach a peaceful solution with the military rulers who overthrew President Mohamed Bazoum on July 26. The delegation met with Prime Minister Ali Lamine Zen, who received them at the airport. Members of the delegation also met with the head of the junta, General Abdurrahman Tchiani, for about 90 minutes, and later with the ousted President Bazoum. General Abdulsalami Abubakar did not go into details of the discussion with the detained president. According to his words, "We met him, President Bazoum, and heard his side of the story. He told us what was done to him and the challenges he's facing. We will communicate this to ECOWAS leaders. Doors for talks are now open for a lasting solution." The CNN had weeks ago quoted President Bazoum in a series of text messages to a friend as saying that he had been deprived of all human contact, with no one supplying him food or medicine. President Bazoum had also stated that he had been living without electricity, a similar situation for all Nigerians, after Nigeria cut off electric power in response to the coup. The overthrown president said all of the perishable food he was supplied with had since gone bad, and he was now eating dry pasta and rice. The junta had last week granted President Bazoum access to his doctor. Sources had earlier said that General Abdulsalami Abubakar's delegation could not meet with the junta. A previous effort by the Ecowas delegation, also led by Abdulsalami Abubakar, had failed. General Tchiani had apologized when some Nigerian clerics met with him on Saturday, saying that he did not meet delegation out of anger. Ecowas had activated its standby forces and said all options were on the table after the junta had ignored the ultimatum to reinstate Bazoum. Mali, Burkina Faso had deployed warplanes. Burkina Faso and Mali yesterday deployed warplanes in Niger Republic, following the threat of the Ecowas troops that they were waiting for an order to strike. But Burkina Faso and Mali warned that any military intervention in Niger will be considered a declaration of war against them. In a joint statement, the government of Burkina Faso and Mali said, "The disastrous consequences of a military intervention in Niger could destabilize the entire region," the statement reads. The latest move of Mali and Burkina Faso was disclosed by Niger's national televisions. In a report, the television station stated that the military leaders from Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger convened on Friday in the Nigerian capital Niamey to decide on concrete measures in case ECOWAS chooses to escalate a war. Most of ECOWAS' 15 member states are prepared to contribute to the joint force, except Cape Verde and those under military rule, Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea. The ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Abdel Fattah Musa, had on Friday, after a two-day meeting of the regional Bloc defense chief in Accra, Ghana, said the troops were waiting for order to strike. "We are ready to go anytime the order is given. The D-Day is also decided. We have already agreed and fine-tuned what will be required for the intervention. As we speak, we are still negotiating peace, not to embark into military war," Musa stated. The top military general in Niger on Saturday dismisses reports if a mutiny attempt on Tchiani by the presidential guard. There is no mutiny at the presidential palace. Also, General Tchiani has not left the presidential palace. He is currently with the CEDEAO delegation, the general said. Niger's military appointed Prime Minister Ali Mahaman Lamine has assured that President Bazoum will not be harmed. ECOWAS chairman and Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had on Friday warned of impending grave consequences should the military rulers allow Bazoum's health to deteriorate in detention. Zain Saturday told the New York Times that nothing will happen to him because we don't have a tradition of violence in Niger. Niger's new rulers have so far shown little flexibility and warned against illegal aggression. Meanwhile, Radio France International reported that thousands of volunteers turned out in central Niamey on Saturday, answering a call to register as civilian auxiliaries who could be mobilized to support the army. Some Nigerians residing in Kano State in Nigeria yesterday backed a non-military plan by the Ecowas to restore democratic government to their home country. They however asked the regional bloc to rescind its decision to enforce military action in Niger, stressing that dialogue is the best approach to resolve conflict. They also called for immediate release of President Bazoum, his family and all other persons in detention. The leader of the protesters, Lawali Maman Bama, lauded President Bazoum's plan to enhance the economic development of the Niger Republic and develop human and capital resources in the country. He stated that during President Bazoum's reign, Nigerians witnessed political, economic and social development. He condemned the military authorities for overthrowing President Bazoum. We should always remember that prior to the military intervention in Niger Republic, the country under President Bazoum was experiencing growth in peace, economy and political development, he stated. The plan by the Economic Community of West African States, Ecowas, to invade the Niger Republic if the coup leaders failed to hand over to the democratically elected president Mohamed Bazoum has been rejected by Algeria and Egypt. Algeria and Egypt insisted that dialogue remains the best option out of the current political crisis in the country. The move to invade Niger has also been opposed by prominent individuals and groups in Nigeria, including the National Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs, Jama'atu Nazri Islam, Catholic Bishop Conference of Nigeria, Christian Association of Nigeria, Arewa Consultative Forum, and the Northern Elders Forums, amongst others. The president of Algeria, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, in a move to end the political crisis in Niger, dispatched the foreign minister Ahmed Attaf to visit Nigeria, Benin Republic and Ghana. Attaf, who was dispatched on Wednesday, is to hold consultations with his counterparts in Ecowas countries with a mandate to make a case for diplomacy rather than military intervention. Algeria, which shares a 1,000 kilometers, that is 600-mile long land border with Niger, had previously warned against a military solution which Tebboune said would be a direct threat to his North African country. He said, "There will be no solution without us, Algeria. We are the first people affected." The Egyptian government, on its part, stressed the need for dialogue, contending that military approach to the issue in Niger would do the Ecowas and the continent no good. The government said inasmuch as it is important to restore democratic governance to Niger Republic within the shortest possible time, it is also expedient not to plunge the country into a war that could affect its neighbors. The Foreign Ministry, in a statement released on Wednesday, said Egypt boasts all efforts exerted to defuse tension in a way that promotes the democratic order and the sovereignty and stability of Niger and prevent escalations that could shake regional security. The ministry said the region ECOWAS could ill afford a military operation at present and cautioned against it. However, thousands of Nigerians volunteered to fight alongside with the military junta. Nigerian citizens in their thousands queued up on Saturday outside the Niamey Stadium to volunteer after the military junta behind the July 26 coup made calls for civilian auxiliary support. The organizers of the event affirmed that the General Abdurrahman Tchiani-led junta was not involved in the initiation but was only aware of it. West African Bloc Ecowas had threatened the coup leaders of a possible military intervention after it met on Friday to finalize the decision. One of the volunteers, Mamadou, exclaimed, "I want to be a soldier for the love of my country. What is more, Niger is our country. I want to commit myself to Niger. Long live Niger." I've heard that they need 5,000 or 10,000 volunteer soldiers. That is why I came here, said another volunteer, Abdullahi, a footballer. Reports stated that some parents brought their wards to register while others had been in wait since as early as 3 a.m. to respond to a call from various organizations. Over the course of the coup aftermath, Nigerian youths and other citizens have taken to the streets to chant their support for the military junta and against the decision of Ecowas and France, the West African states' former colonial rulers. The move to ask for volunteers was led by a local group in Niamey in a bid to hire tens of thousands of Nigerian volunteers from across the country to sign up for a group they called Volunteers for the Defense of Niger. According to one of the founders, Amzaru Bako, who spoke with the Associated Press last week, the group is expected to provide combat assistance, provide technical and engineering logistics, medical care alongside other functions should the junta need help. An activist, name withheld, told the cheering crowd at the stadium, "I am a military mother. We are waiting for you, young volunteers. From now until tomorrow, that is what I had to say. We are waiting for you," he stated. An Ecowas delegation, including former Nigerian military head of state Abdulsalami Abubakar, had visited Niger on Saturday to further dialogue with the junta, the Nigerian ruling communication office stated. General Abdulsalami Abubakar had visited Niamey as ECOWAS representative earlier this month for a dialogue, but he couldn't meet the nation's military leader, General Tchiani, nor ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. The Commissioner for Political Affairs and Security for the ECOWAS had on Friday insisted that the Bloc were ready to send a standby force to restore civilian rule should negotiation fail. The junta had recently announced that it will relinquish power back to civilian leadership after 3 years.